There are many things that can stall social progress that don't come from enemies of progress, but come from within progressive movements, from within the minds of progressive people themselves. For example, here is one of the most dangerous thoughts a progressive person can have. You've just achieved an important goal, passed an important piece of legislation, seen a potentially harmful bill go down to defeat, won a close election, and you say to yourself, "I'm so glad that's over." It's a seductive idea, and a comforting one. It's a notion we've seen depicted in literature and dramatized in theaters and on our television screens countless times. The battle is won. The hero is victorious. You close the book, the curtain comes down, the scene fades to black. What happens next? It doesn't matter. The story's over. We've grown so accustomed to finite, resolved narratives that it's understandable that we would want to view our own lives in the same way, as a series of episodes that begin, progress, and then conclude. And this is especially attractive when we are participating in events that are much larger than ourselves, that reach beyond our normal everyday lives, like, for instance, social movements and political campaigns. We like resolution. We like endings. So when we reach something that feels like an ending, we're instinctively compelled to pat ourselves on the back and go home. Show's over. But here's the problem with that. It's never over. Many of you don't need me to tell you this. Campaign volunteers, community organizers, veterans of political activism, you know from experience that it never ends, that you can go to sleep when the sun goes down, but you have to get right back up when the sun rises the next morning. Where this "I'm glad that's over" attitude really takes hold is in the minds of people who aren't seriously, consistently involved in activism. These are the folks who are inspired to donate, to volunteer, to get out and vote by a particular candidate or cause, but who aren't significantly involved in politics otherwise. Most of you watching this video are probably in that group. You're politically aware, you care about certain issues, but on a day-to-day basis, you've got other shit to do. And there's nothing in the world wrong with that. Not everyone can or should be a full-time activist. Hell, even Batman isn't Batman 24/7. I mean, he kind of is, although it really depends on which version of the character you're addressing. In the past, there was a much clearer demarcation between Bruce Wayne and, you know what, not relevant. The important thing is, even though, for the sake of my present metaphor, he isn't Batman all the time, he still shows up when he sees the bat signal. If he didn't, Gotham City would be in quite a fix, because one of the things that is fairly consistent across the many and varied interpretations of Batman is that the police are pretty ineffectual without him. Political part-timers are like Batman, is what I'm saying. Nobody begrudges you what you do when you take off the cape and cowl, but when we light the bat signal, we need you to suit up. The fate of Gotham depends on it. And Gotham is America. And look, I know how powerful the pull of "I'm glad that's over" can be. I feel it all the time. I felt it in 2008 when Barack Obama was elected president for the first time. Yay, we did it! I felt it when the Affordable Care Act was passed. Woohoo, we won! I felt it when the Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriage in the United States. Finally! Those were all important victories. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't pause to celebrate our accomplishments, and I'm certainly not saying that it's wrong to step away and take a break as necessary. Whether you're involved in politics regularly or occasionally, it's essential to be able to stop, rest, and recharge from time to time. All I'm saying is don't allow yourself to fall into a false sense of completion, because social progress isn't something that can be completed. That's not how it works. Whether we win or we lose a given battle, it's never over. In fact, thinking about how we respond to defeats can be instructive for how we should respond to victories. In 2011, when my state's legislature failed to pass a bill legalizing same-sex marriage, I felt angry, frustrated, disillusioned, defeated. In other words, I felt like it was over. Then in 2012, the bill came up for consideration again, was passed, was signed by the governor, and survived a statewide voter referendum. I thought it was over, but it wasn't over. The election of Donald Trump last year was devastating to many of us. It was a loss we felt deeply. It did damage that seemed irreparable. Then, the day after Trump's inauguration, 500,000 people in the streets of Washington, D.C., and over 5 million people in cities around the world participated in the Women's March. And that was only the beginning. While Trump's administration has been unquestionably destructive, it has also been checked somewhat by the tireless efforts of progressive activists who have refused to cede any territory to Trump and his allies without a fight. The Muslim ban was challenged and blocked repeatedly. Multiple attempts to repeal the Affordable Care Act were thwarted, and though his party controls both houses of Congress and the White House, Trump has no significant legislative accomplishments to show for his first year in office. That's what happens when we lose, but we resolve that it's not over. And that's the same attitude we have to hold on to when we win. Doug Jones defeated Roy Moore in the Alabama Senate special election, a crucial and hard-won victory, and everyone who worked to make it possible should be proud of what they did. But it's not over. When Donald Trump is removed from the presidency, whether he is chased from the office in disgrace, led away in handcuffs, or defeated in a bid for re-election, that will be a great day for our country, and we will all breathe a long overdue sigh of relief, but it will not be over. When the Republican Party loses its majorities in the House of Representatives and the Senate, it will be something to celebrate, but it will not be over. When the Republican Party loses control of state legislatures and governorships, it will be an important sign of progress, but it will not be over. When the minimum wage is raised, when tens of millions of Americans are no longer trapped in poverty, when women are paid just as much on average as men, when police who murder civilians are made to face justice for their crimes, when quality education is available and affordable for everyone, when health care is a guaranteed human right. When the United States is no longer the gun death capital of the developed world, when undocumented immigrants are able to freely enjoy the benefits of the society they help to make possible, when Black Americans no longer see their dignity, freedom, and lives stolen by systemic discrimination, when these things happen, the world will be a better place for each of them. But even then, it will not be over. And if this sounds exhausting, and I totally get that, try to think of it as motivation and think back to some of the truly transformative moments in American history. The Emancipation Proclamation, the Union victory in the Civil War, the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, all landmarks in the struggle for civil rights, but the struggle continued. The passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, another watershed moment, the culmination of decades of hard work by countless activists. But more hard work was still needed, and is still needed right now. This is important. If you care about fighting injustice and inequality and intolerance, promoting diversity and inclusion, raising quality of life, empowering the marginalized, guaranteeing education and healthcare, in other words, if you care about making the world a better place, we need you. We need you to vote. We need you to call and write your representatives. If you're able to, we need you to donate time and money to people and organizations who can fight the battles that need to be fought. History has demonstrated over and over, and Alabama just showed us again in stunning fashion, that when progressives show up, we win. You don't have to be in the fight all the time. No one could ever be expected to be. But keep an eye on the sky, and when you see the bat signal, please answer it. Because even if we win an important engagement, the struggle for progress will always be a never-ending battle. Damn, I should have gone with a Superman metaphor. It's okay to be Clark Kent most of the time as long as you still show up to save the day. Something like that would have worked.